why in the world would somebody duck hunt with a 28 gauge? I mean, 12 gauge, man's gun. The only reason I shoot a 3.5 inch 12 gauge is they don't make a 4. Or maybe you'd shoot a 28 gauge to be a show off. On today's video, I'm diving into all of that, and what you'll see may surprise you. I'm Joel Strickland, and this is Surviving Duck Season. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. I love to duck hunt with my 28 gauge. And on a few of my videos over the past year, I've mentioned that I was hunting with the 28 gauge. Then, I got a few comments. So, I thought I'd take a few minutes, make a video, and clear up a few patches of ignorance. Now, I won't single out any one person because there were several similar comments, mostly based on a similar misunderstanding. The comments go like this. Why are so many YouTubers buying into the 28 gauge fad? 28 gauges are for girls and kids. You have to be an expert to ethically hunt with a 28 gauge for ducks. Small gauges are for experts, and if this becomes a fad because of influencers, there will be a lot more crippling losses. Why would you limit yourself so much by shooting a 28 gauge? Okay, so let me make sure I understand this. A 28 gauge is a fad for influencers that has a very short range that's really designed to be a kid's first gun, but it should only be used by an expert. Right, got it. What do you think? Kid's gun, expert's gun, or regular guy's gun? Let me know down in the comments. Now, even before you watch the rest of this video, I promise I'm not going to hold it against you. You can even let me know when I change your mind later in the video, because I probably will. All right, now there's a lot to unpack here, so stay with me. All right, here we go. So who's shooting a 28 gauge?
28 gauge is just a beautiful weight, a beautiful gun to shoot. It handles great. There's almost no recoil. Even if you're shooting a pumper and over and under, there's like almost no recoil. It handles beautiful, and the ballistics are equal to a 12 gauge. Most people are going to be shooting inside 45 yards, and 45 yards is far. A very high percentage of that is probably within 35 yards, okay? But inside 45 yards, a 28 gauge is as capable of any 12 gauge load.
The 28 gauge really wasn't my thing, too small for me. I'm in the 12 gauge guy, So then we bought our duck property, wanted to keep the noise down, and we all fell in love with these 28s. And they really are magic. It's something else.
Well, I have Matt from Prairie Sportsman with me today. Now, many of you probably seen his videos on YouTube. He's the guy shooting ducks with a 28 gauge. And so I wanted to include him on this video, ask him a few questions. Matt, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So what is it about a 28 gauge, now that you've been hunting with it for years, that you like so much?
So there's a couple things I really have come to like about using the 28 gauge. First is how quick I can get up on birds, just quick to the shoulder, and it works well for me. Some people complain, I've heard, about the whippiness of it, and I don't mind that. Another thing is the sound, the rapport of the shot, at least in my personal opinion, and I don't have the actual decibel test to back it up, but I've also had buddies comment on this as well. It's a quieter gun, or at least that's my perception. So just those two things right there. And then it's also lighter. You can carry a lot more ammunition if you needed to carry more shells, and the gun itself is lighter. Mine comes in at about 5 pounds, maybe just a hair over.
The 28 gauge is a fad. All right, let's look at the definition of the word fad. It's an intense, widely shared enthusiasm for something that's short-lived, without basis in the object's qualities, a craze, personal idiosyncrasy, or whim. Short-lived? Well, the 28 gauge has been around since the 1850s, and it's still an extremely popular upland shotgun. When lead shot was outlawed for waterfowl, sub-gauges were briefly rendered useless because of steel shot. But as more effective pellet material became available, sub gauges found their place back in the hands of duck hunters. Now understand, I'm talking about using bismuth or tungsten in a sub gauge. I'm definitely not suggesting that we should be duck hunting with steel shot in a 28 or 410. It is unethical for influencers to hunt with a 28 gauge. Should experts be the only one hunting ducks and geese with them? Let's look at the math. Now, these are number 5 bismuth pellets, and if I shoot 170 of them at 1,350 feet per second, does its effectiveness matter if I'm shooting that out of a 12, 20, or 28 gauge? I think this is a good time to ask the age-old question, which weighs more, a pound of lead or a pound of feathers? Well, obviously they both weigh the same. Now my point is, many people believe a 12 gauge is more powerful than a 20 or 28 gauge. Yet, if we're shooting the same size pellets with the same muzzle velocity, wouldn't they be equally as powerful? The difference in the different gauges is the amount of payload or pellets that it can send downrange. So really the discussion needs to be about pellet count on target. The way we know that is by patterning the shotgun choke and shot shell combination. You need to have 100 pellets or more in a 30-inch circle at the distance you're going to be shooting to effectively kill a duck. Now let's compare some loads. First, 28 gauge. A 7/8 ounce load of Boss copper-plated bismuth number 5s has about 168 pellets. I think most people would agree that an ounce and an eighth number 3 steel shot fired out of a 3-inch 12 gauge would be an effective load. Being an expert, not required. Most of y'all have probably shot that load. I know I have. Now that load has a comparable pellet count to the 28 gauge 7/8 ounce number 5. I submit to you that the number 5 bismuth has a greater effective range than the number 3 steel shot does, or even a number 2 for that matter. But don't take my word for it. Take a look at these tests. Okay, now we're going to do some comparisons between a 12 gauge and a 28 gauge. First, we're going to do pattern testing. Right here, I've got my Benelli Ethos Cordoba 28 gauge. It's got a 28-inch barrel, semi-automatic gun. I'm going to be shooting a Boss number 5, 2 3/4, 7/8 ounce load. And I have a Muller passing choke. So we're going to shoot, probably 4 or 5 rounds with each shotgun and just kind of compare the differences or similarities or whatever we come up with. I'm using the Target Telemetrics. This is an app on the phone and I'm using these targets. It found 117 pellets in a 30-inch circle. 110 pellets in a 30-inch circle. It found 127 in the 30-inch circle. I'm at 75% pattern percentage. I mean, that's what you want. Yeah, I mean, that's a dead duck. All right, now let's get the 12 gauge out and put some number 3 steel shot. See what it looks like. I've got some Boss Steel Reserve steel shot. These are 1 1/8 ounce loads, number 3s in a 3-inch 12 gauge. And I'm going to be shooting some of those out of my Winchester SX4. And I have a Muller passing choke. Son of a gun. I'm not used to shooting a 12 gauge. All right, let's go see what that looks like. 13 pellets. So it found 125 pellets in the 30-inch circle. So that's a 71.8% pattern percentage. So then there'd be many of you say, well, see, you got good patterns, with your 12 gauge. I'm not arguing that a 12 gauge doesn't make a good pattern. My point is that the 28 gauge does just as well, if not even maybe a little bit better, without the kick. Both of them are very good, very capable at the, as far as the pattern goes, very capable of shooting a duck at 40 yards. Let's take a look at it though with Ballistic Gel. All right, I'm really excited about this. I've done a lot of shooting in Ballistic Gel. I bought a lot of Ballistic Gel from Clear Ballistics, and they sent me this to try out. They actually sent me a couple of them. This is a duck, a duck Ballistic Gel. Pretty cool, huh? And what's really neat is now we have a 3D target that can capture the pellets. And now I will say this, shooting into Ballistic Gel does not necessarily equate the type of penetration that you would get in shooting into real flesh, shooting into a duck. This does not have skin and feathers and bones in it that can change the trajectory of the pellets or cause them to ricochet or whatever. This is a soft medium. However, it does enable us to see what's going on. It will allow us to see how many actual hits would be in a particular target, and it can also give us a way to test known successful projectiles. Okay, so what that means is if I'm shooting a number 5 that I know I have shot a lot of ducks with, and I have complete confidence in it at, you know, for sure at 40 yards, definitely even further than that, then I know what that looks like in Ballistic Gel. And so then we shoot a steel shot and we can compare it, or some other type of load that you're not sure about, or maybe a different size pellet that you weren't sure about what it would look like, and then you can compare them. That's really the best way to use this stuff. And so anyway, we're going to put this up. We're going to put some number 5, get that on there the right way. We're going to shoot number 5 bismuth, and then we're going to shoot number 3 steel shot, and those are very comparative loads. We've already talked about that. I think we're going to see very similar results in Ballistic Gel at 40 yards. We would definitely see different results further out. We're not going to try to do that because I think 40 yards is a good spot. That's really where we limit steel shot. So let's take a look at it. I've got the bismuth here, and look at all the ducks. I mean, there's just ducks and geese all over the place. This is such a cool time. We've been seeing ducks and geese all morning since we've been out here shooting, and they just really started coming in the last couple of days. We've still got another month before duck season, but a lot of guys have asked, you know, well, you still do guided hunts, that sort of thing. Lost Bridge Duck Club is a membership club, but we do have some guided hunts that we're doing until we fill all of our membership slots up. So we expect that to happen over the next 12 months. So if you are interested, I do think we have a few dates left. Get in while you can, because you may not be able to get in once the memberships are sold after this duck season. LostBirdsDuckClub.com, link in the description. All right, let's shoot again. All right, so looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 of them have gone well past the middle. This one comes all the way to the very end. That's 8. And then, like I said, there's some pass-throughs in the thin part of it here. That we won't count that. But then there's all of these. There's like several in the head where it went through the head. So a dead duck, of course. Let's add the 12 gauge into the mix. I'm gonna be feeling that in the morning. So this is a little bit confusing because Boss's steel shot is copper plated as well, and I forgot when I pulled the trigger that they also have copper plated steel shot. But you can tell the difference in the sizes, and I remember what we shot before as well. But anyways, the The number threes, there's two number threes right here that is right next to a number 5, so it's almost exactly the same distance. This one right here is also at the same distance, although it's at the thinner part of the material. So it looks like there's a couple of more pass-throughs back here, and it looks like there's an extra pass-through right here kind of in the neck area. And so again, we're getting very similar results. Very similar results. We've got just, I mean, here's a line. If you follow that line all the way across, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pellets at the 3/4 of the way through the body, and so very adequate, you know, at this distance. It looks like very similar performance, and I think that's really the point, is we're getting similar performance out of number 3 steel shot and number 5 bismuth out of a 12 gauge versus a 28 gauge. Very similar pattern, very similar in ballistic gel. So then we got another duck ballistic gel block and shot it again with both the 28 gauge and the 12 gauge. Let's see what we got here. And we got nearly identical results to the last block we shot. Steel versus bismuth, what kind of shady thing you got going on in there? We want to see bismuth versus bismuth. I knew there was going to be that guy. So you want to see 12 gauge versus 28 gauge, both in bismuth? Let's do it. Same gel block, it's already got both the bismuth and the steel in it already, like we looked at. I'm just going to shoot it one more time. We're going to count the pellets right here. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 pellets on past the center mass, and then there's probably 3 or 4 here. Okay, so let's shoot it. Now I've got a 2 3/4 inch 12 gauge Boss number 5. This is 1 1/4 ounce. So let's take a look at it. Is it going to make a difference? Let's see. We're going to get some rain today. We need it. All right. Yep, I see a few more hits. And here we go. Just like we said. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I think we had 12 before, and now we got 17. That's right in that same range. And then we've got 1, 2 more right here in the middle. Well, again, it's exactly what we expected. No difference between the 12 gauge and the 28 gauge bismuth. And thanks for your comment, LJ. Clearing up patches of ignorance, one video at a time. Okay, now that I've established the facts, let me tell you my 28 gauge story. 4 years ago, I was working on the shotgun series. I shot many different shotguns and lots of ammunition, and I was able to borrow quite a few shotguns. 2 of them were 28 gauges. I was very surprised in their feel and how well I shot them. So I decided 2 years ago I was going to buy one for myself. So I ordered a Benelli Ethos Cordoba. The gun is lightweight, fits me perfectly, and I'd say it's the best fitting shotgun I've ever shot. And that was right out of the box. Now my intention was to hunt with it occasionally, especially when I hunted in the woods. I was so excited when the season came last year, and opening day I went to the woods carrying my 28 gauge and number 6s. Now the first group of ducks came in, hovered over the decoys, and I shot twice. Bam! Bam! And 2 ducks hit the water. It was surreal to me. I mean, I felt like I was shooting a toy gun because it didn't kick and the sound was way less than what I was used to. It was so easy to swing over to that second bird and get him too. Completely different experience and so much fun. So I took the gun out the next day and the next day. In fact, I didn't put the gun down for the entire season. It didn't matter if I was shooting ducks or geese. No recoil means easy follow-up shots and even third shots. It gave me tons of confidence in my shooting. It honestly changed my life. That first season with my 28 gauge, I shot so many doubles and triples. In fact, probably hadn't shot that many collectively in my entire life. I mean, not kidding. It was so cool. There's many people who've researched and written on the 28 gauge saying it's a superior gauge. Well, I haven't done enough research to say that. Here's what I do know. A 28 gauge comes up fast, swings quick and easy, and because it's so light, you don't get tired of it on a hunt. And with regular use, the light recoil, it changes the way you shoot. Because you're so used to shooting bigger gauges, you flinch, you move your face away from the gun and not even realize you do it. And everybody does it. And so I don't do that anymore. It's really a game changer. Does it take an expert to shoot a 28? Probably not. But I do think it can make you look like an expert. Bottom line, I'm not here to tell you what to shoot. Shoot whatever you want. I made this video to set the record straight and tell you why I shoot a 28 gauge. If you want to improve your shooting, make less noise, and have less felt recoil, a 28 gauge shotgun may just be for you. If you missed this video right here, make sure you check it out. I'm Joel Strickland. God bless you, and I'll see you on the next video.